Hello everyone, it is I, Freedom Pulse 97, and this is my submission video for RPG Limit Break 2020 of Ys 2 Chronicles Plus, an expanded and enhanced remake of the original Ys 2, which was released in about 1987-88, one of the earlier action RPGs of the time, and it's a super fun run, super fun game, and I'm very excited to be showing it off for all of you today. Really quick, a note on incentives. Just like Ys 1, we're offering 2 incentives. You have the option to choose your soundtrack between the original PC-88 soundtrack that you are hearing now. There is also the Ys Complete Edition soundtrack, which is this. And then there is finally the Ys Chronicles version soundtrack, along with the option to choose the artwork that is shown in-game. Whenever you talk to an important NPC, or just any NPC that would pull you into a menu, they have kind of a text box artwork that appears, and there's 2 versions of that. There's the Complete and the Chronicles version. For sake of convenience / personal preference, I will be doing this run using both the Chronicles music and artwork. Just, again, personal preference. It makes 0 difference in the gameplay itself, so it's just a really fun incentive to let people donate to make a bit of a difference in the run. Just like with Ys 1, we run the game on easy. It makes a bigger impact in this game than it does in Ys 1, the difficulty we play on, which I will probably get into as the run continues forward. However, this introduction has gone on long enough as it is, so without further ado, time starts when I select easy difficulty, which I will be doing in 3, 2, 1, go. So, like I said, this is a very direct sequel to Ys 1. So direct, in fact, that tower in the background there is actually the final dungeon of Ys 1. So Adol defeats Darkfact and reads the last book of Ys, and in doing so, suddenly the books basically surround him and cause a lot of magical things to happen that carry him into the sky to the lost kingdom of Ys, which had thought to be destroyed 700 years prior. Turns out it had been lifted high into the sky, and the people have been living there ever since. So Adol wakes up very injured from his fight and climbing the tower, and is rescued by a girl named Lilia, where her and her mother, Benoa, nurse him back to health, and in return for this, before Adol goes out and saves the world, he decides to help out Benoa a little bit. So she gives him a letter and explains that her daughter Lilia is actually dying of a very fatal illness, some unknown illness, but she has hope. The Leonor Rahl, the doctor in town, or not Leonor Rahl, Leonor Rahl is this dude. The actual doctor in the town, not this person, happens to know, several magical and special cures, and can save her life. So we go to the doctor's office, be like, hey, you should help us. Unfortunately, it happens that at about that moment, an earthquake occurred that caused there to be a collapse in the mines nearby, where the doctor happened to be located, gathering herbs and such. And along with there being an earthquake and a collapse, demons also started flooding out of the mine. Something to note in this game, the monsters in the first game are confirmed to actually be demons that are summoned by dark magic. So, same thing, just different terminology. So, us being the brave and heroic adventurers we are, agree to help out and go save the doctor. We'll also be accomplishing a couple of other tasks, slaying some of the demons inside, etc. Unlike the first game, which required you to have a full set of equipment before you could move on, you really only need a sword. And the game gives you a sword later if you don't buy it now, but it's faster to just buy a sword now. So we show the books of Ys to this elder who's like, oh, you have the books. Well, since you're going to the mines anyway, you should drop off all of the books at the statues of the elders in the shrine. And it'll cause magic to happen, and they will give you instructions on how to save the world, essentially. And so we venture forth into the mines. However, first, before we do that, we have to do some grinding. This game implements a much more progressive level-up system than the first game did, whereas the first game did more of a... It still had a level-up system, but it was very restrictive in what it did, because you had 10 levels, so you reached level 10 by about the halfway point in the game, and you really didn't have to worry about it after that. You were just at full strength for the rest of the game. In this game, however, they changed that, so instead you are you're leveling up throughout the run. We will finish the run at about level 50-ish. And that, although being very cool, you'll see more character growth and more progressively throughout the game. It does, unfortunately, mean there will be grinding in this run, other than just the one big grind we had to do in East 1. And, again, that's not really an issue. For the first half of the run, for the most part, a lot of the grinding works out very perfectly, that if we just kill enemies as we go, we'll end up being the levels we need to be, without really ending up under-leveled. I got too much experience. That's totally fine. So what I was supposed to do is I was supposed to come over here and finish getting level 4 on these enemies, but it's not a big deal. So, along with grinding, we grind to level 4 here so that we can do more damage to the enemies that are in the first area of the mines. Or, oh, oops, I need to talk to... Yes, we're good. You need to talk to this dude so that you can open up the mines. My brain kind of went on autopilot for a second. It's good. So he opens up the door for us because we have the Elder's permission and we have a sword. If you don't have a sword, he gives you one. But it causes more text boxes, and you have to walk up to him without having equipment. You can't kill any of the enemies without a sword, so it's a little bit of a waste of time. So in this first area, the Sanctuary of Toll, will be getting up to level 6. There are some enemies on the eastern side of the ruins that you can only kill once you are level 6 with the short sword. And those enemies block a treasure chest that has a very, very important item in it that we need, that we literally need in order to even play the game. So we'll be getting to level 6 off of these enemies because they give a lot more experience than the enemies outside do. And they're still relatively weak. I don't remember what I was talking about before, but so I picked up a fruit while I was outside. They wrote a fruit. It's a MP restoration item. That's not really the important part though. Like, it'll be useful later. We'll pick up another one to get a full MP heal. But the purpose for it now is that it's one of 2 items we need to actually create the medicine that will save Lilia. Basically, we'll save the doctor, he'll say, oh, you need these things, and the game is very nice about overlapping texts, where basically if you receive an objective but you already have the item needed to complete the objective, the game will straight up say, oh, you need this item. Oh, you already have this item? Excellent, and it will just let you progress forward. There we killed the enemy that we needed to be level 6 in order to beat these golem enemies, in order to grab the Rod of Divinity. What that does is it allows us to have magic. Okay, you see I gained an MP bar from that. And magic is really the crux of this run that really differentiates it. One of the huge things that really differentiates it from East 1. Magic will be a huge part of this. There are 6 magical spells throughout the game. We will be getting 5 of them and really using about 4 of them. Earlier on, I picked up a wing. If you know anything about East 1, you know wings are very important. They let you warp back to... In the first game, it warped you back to Minia. In this game, it warps you back to any major hub town, which is very, very useful. And we get 1 wing now, but pretty soon we'll be picking up a magical spell that will give us the same effect as a wing, so we don't have to buy any more after that. Alongside that, we'll be getting an attack magic. We'll be getting, again, several very useful spells, and some spells that are not useful. We're required to pick up 5 spells. 1 of them we use exactly once, but it is required, and the game won't let you progress without it. And then 1 of them, the time magic, will just straight up be ignoring because it has literally no use for us. So there I picked up a Madoc. Like they mentioned earlier, the Doctor is held behind a wall of collapsed rubble, and that wall is right here. So we can use the Madoc to break the wall down and rescue the Doctor. And you'll see in this game you get experience for completing quests, and I just gained a level from that. I'm not actually going to go talk to the Doctor, because if you rescue the Doctor and then don't talk to him, once you leave the mine, he will move back to his house. And doing so, that kind of continues along with what I mentioned with the text overlap. where if you do that and you pick up the items needed to rescue him, you'll get all 3 dialogues in a row without having to have any sort of break in the text, where he'll be like, oh, you rescued me, that's great. Oh no, we need to save Lilia. Oh, you have the items, we need to save her, that's awesome. And again, saves time, it's very convenient, means we don't have to go into that room at all, which is super nice. Here we'll be picking up the first and most important spell in the game, the fire magic. It gives us a fireball projectile, as the name suggests. That does a lot of damage. It has regular and charged shots. The charged shots do substantially more damage. Both shots have their use, and we'll be putting it to good use here to grind. We need to hit level 12 in order to do some decent damage to the next boss, and also to guarantee that we will have enough money coming out of this to purchase a sword upgrade. The goal is we need 5,000 to purchase the Talwar, which is the tier 3 sword. Luckily, we will also, in the area of the mines after the boss, be picking up a piece of iron ore that sells for 3,000 gold. And that, plus picking up 2,000 gold from killing enemies, will give us enough money to purchase that. And it will get us through really the second half of the run. Or, the first half of the run, not the second half. Silly me. Pretty overpowered if it got us through the second half of the run. So I'm not going to get level 12 off of grinding to those enemies. I'm actually going to get most of the way to level 12 and then kill enemies as I'm dropping off these 2 books. And with that, with the 1 experience I get from each of these enemies, plus the 7 I get from the plant enemy that you saw in the room before this, it'll give us exactly enough experience to get to level 12. Also, dropping off these books does give you a full heal, which is very nice. Level 12, I'm going to kill this enemy as well because the extra money is very nice. And with that, we can now head to fight the very first boss of the game, Velagunder. One thing to note about pretty much all of the bosses in this game, with one exception, is that they are all completely manipulatable. If you do the same thing every time when you fight these bosses, you will get the same result every time. This boss is being a bit of a butt right now, though. So Velagunder, you can only hit him when he opens up his arms like that. And sometimes he opens his arms for very short amounts of time. There is, again, based on the way that you move during that fight, you can completely manipulate him to keep his arms open for the maximum amount of time. And if you aim your shots well, you can kill him in potentially 3 cycles. I personally have never gotten the 3-cycle kill, but there are other runners of this game that are much better at that fight than I am that have gotten the 3-cycle. And it all depends on movement. My movement in that fight's just a little bit weird sometimes. So here we're picking up a Salsetta flower, which is the second item that we need to save Lilia. It's also another MP restoration item, but we won't be picking up any in the run because they're all kind of out of the way. So we just need a couple more enemy kills to get to the magic number of 2,000 gold. So 1 more kill in here, though we're going to kill both of the enemies in this room anyway, because might as well. Like that. We're also picking up the Evil Bell, which is a quest item that we'll use twice. You can use it more if you really hate a certain NPC in this game. Shoutouts to Korzik, who rings it whenever Lily is around because he really doesn't like her. And we'll finally be picking up an item that we will use, whoops, we're good, that we'll use exactly once, the Light Magic. It is the second spell. Its purpose is, when you equip it, you see that there's a little light ball flying around me. That will illuminate dark areas like the mines that we were just in, and it will show secret passages. Kind of the intended thing for you to do is to pick up the Light Magic before you get the Evil Bell and the Iron Ore. And then you can use it to find those items. However, since I know where those doors are, I don't have to worry about it. However, you are required to have the Light Magic before you leave this area, specifically because there's one place much later in the game, just after the halfway point, that you need the Light Magic to see an item that you have to pick up. So you'll see that be used way later. And here you see what I mean about the text stacking. So here he's like, oh, someone saved me. Oh, that was you. You give him the letter. Oh, well, I need these items. Oh, you have those items. Perfect. And he makes the potion, or the medicine. I will probably describe it as a potion multiple times, even though it's definitely a medicine. It even says in the title. There is no witchcraft in this game. However, we have the medicine, we can now give it to Benoa. And she's like, oh, thank you so much. And we will now attempt to leave. However, Lilia was listening at the door, and she didn't know that she was dying, so she's a little perturbed by that fact. However, she's like, oh, you went into the mines just to save me, that's so sweet of you. And so she will muster up the courage to drink the potion, medicine, and we will see what happens. So she drinks it. This very not magical blue light will appear, and she's totally fine now. We're good. We saved her life. She feels like she could run a marathon, which is definitely more healthy than I am, and as far as I know, I'm not dying. So, you know, I think it went well. So, in return for our act of kindness, we get the return magic, which is what I was talking about previously. We are now able to, for the cost of only 20 MP, we're able to warp to any major point in the game. And that's very useful. It saves us a lot of money that we would otherwise have to spend on wings. Now here, we have one more book to drop off, but it's kind of blocked off from us. The way to the shrine was blocked by rubble. Luckily, this dude, or I'm assuming it's a dude named Gila, has an issue where they hear sounds in their basement, and then you ring bells and it blows up their wall. Which, you know, that's a problem. I'm going to make a safety save here, because this part is actually one of the two most scary parts of the run. You heard it. The 15 minutes into the run is the scariest part. Basically, we're doing a little bit of a side quest here. We don't have to do this, however, we get a lot of experience for it, both from killing the enemies and from completing the quest. Basically, we're clearing out this person's basement. It's pretty fast. It takes 2 minutes, less than 2 minutes if you do it quickly, and you'll always get about 1.5 to 2 levels of experience from killing the enemies, along with a guaranteed level up for completing the quest. So overall, it gives you a lot of experience at a good amount of money. That's very useful. But it is very scary. These knights do a lot of damage. You'll notice, because I was not required to buy any armor earlier, I just didn't... Okay, that's going to lose me a little time. I just didn't pick up armor. Which, you know, it's... now it's mostly fine. You know, I die in a couple of hits, which is a problem. But it's not really a big issue, and here we're dropping off the final book. It will be an issue later in the run, however, because I'm not going to be picking up any armor until about an hour-ish into the run. Oh, I need to split. We're good. So we drop off the book to Priest Tolfact, and he tells us, he opens up the way for us to now go and progress towards the shrine. So you saw me use the return magic there. Also, I have an evil bell which makes loud and noxious noises. And the entrance to the path to the shrine is, we've walked by it a couple of times. Yeah, that part's very dangerous, and I've lost many runs. If you can ask anyone who's run this game, and they'll probably say that the vast majority of the runs they lose die either there or in the third area of the game. So you can look out for that. It's a very exciting part of the run for sure. However, we see this little cutscene here with this hooded figure by the name of Dallas, who is kind of the main antagonist of this game, or he's the puppet of the entity that is sort of the antagonist of the 3 games, both this, Ys 1, and Ys Origin. And he's watching us. He's like, oh, we should fight this guy because he seems dangerous. And we find ourselves here in the Ice Ridge of Nulsha. It is the second area in the game. It is a very complex area movement-wise because it is a mountain range, and it's actually designed very well because it's designed like a very confusing mountain range. As such, it's very easy to get lost in this area. So you'll see me, I usually make one big just random movement blunder throughout here. I might make more than that, we'll see. But we'll be running through here. Like I said previously, we will be doing some level grinding as we go. we'll be stopping to kill a number of enemies, because by the time we fight the next boss, at the end of this area, we need to be level 20. There's not really a money threshold we need, but we know that if we're level 20, we will A, have enough money, more than likely, and B, we will also... menuing... and B, we will also be at a high enough level that we can kill the boss fairly easily without too much trouble. Which is always very nice. I guess now is a good time. As good time as any to mention what I said earlier about why playing on easy is such a big deal in this game. In East 1, it was just nice because it meant that the run itself was safer and easier to do. Because you took less damage, enemies took a little more damage, enemies moved a little slower, etc. In this game, it actually makes a big difference. So when they made I believe it was when they made the Eternal version of this game, which is kind of the predecessor to Complete, they implemented a couple of physics changes with how the bump system works, which is the main combat system in this game. You run into enemies, they take damage, you hopefully don't take damage. In East 1, it was entirely based on your position versus the enemy. If you hit an enemy straight on their hitbox, you would take full damage. If you hit an enemy off their hitbox slightly, you would not take any return damage, and they would take full damage. In East 2, they decided to, for lower difficulties at least, to kind of make it a little bit more consistent, especially because a lot of the geometry in this game is a lot more natural. There's a lot less square single-tile corridors. Just everything in general feels a little more organic and less squared off. So to compensate for that, along with just wanting to make the game seem more advanced, I guess, they changed the way the system works, where in this game, on easy mode, they completely removed the requirement to have any sort of worry about positioning with hitting enemies. As long as you were the one running into an enemy, and as long as they are not using a unique attack animation, which you've seen a couple of times, especially from those knights, then you will always deal damage to them and not take any return damage. In normal mode, they kept the fact that you will have to position yourself correctly on an enemy's hitbox. However, whoops, I forgot to do this, we're good. However, they did change one thing. Okay, that's my movement mistake of the area. They did, however, add the ability to hit enemies at a diagonal. That if you run into enemies at a diagonal angle, since not only you haven't been stuck in a 4-direction plane, but now enemies can move diagonally as well. If you run into enemies diagonally, you will always have priority in dealing damage, and that's a huge deal in normal mode. And it makes things a lot safer. They changed that, however, in hard and in nightmare mode, on the other hand, they kept the traditional you have to hit enemies off their hitbox, diagonal hits don't matter. Or they do matter, you will still take return damage depending on where you hit them diagonally. So there are some quality of life changes throughout the difficulties. And that is why it is very much more important, that we run on easy for East 2 versus East 1, since it does make a much bigger difference. Especially since, as I said earlier, we don't pick up armor. In the next area, enemies will hit us, will like 2 or 3 shot us, which is very scary a lot of the time. And so having to deal with having no armor while also taking more damage, enemies taking less damage, and just overall it being a lot more dangerous. Enemies also move slightly faster on higher difficulties. It's just kind of asking a lot. And so that's why easy mode is kind of very important for East 2. Of course, we have category options for the higher difficulty settings. They're not as popularly run, though East 2 is not as popularly run as East 1 is. It's mostly because it's a longer game. I personally enjoy East 2 more than East 1, because there's not something that just arbitrarily kills your run 6 minutes in, but, that's just me. I'm going to make a safety save here. I should not die on this boss. However, stranger things have happened. And I haven't saved in a while, if you have noticed. So this is Tialmith. I forgot his name. This is Tialmith, also known as Frogger. He likes to jump a lot. Oops, I'm one shot off of killing him. That's fine. He likes to jump a bunch. Pretty easy. However, he has a fun quirk where, because iframes, invincibility frames, don't really exist in this game, if he happens to jump and you're not paying attention because he tends to jump in your direction, and he lands on you, the damage he deals to you is such that you instantly die. So that's not a good thing to have happen. And I will neither confirm nor deny if that has happened to me before. That was really rude. That was very rude, actually. Okay, so I'm using one of my 3 herbs. So herbs are healing items. You pick 3 up because, not even for safety, just you straight up like want to have 3 herbs because bad things can happen to you in this run, and sometimes you don't have control over it like that. I have an item equipped called the Hawk Idol. I picked it up earlier and then just kind of forgot to mention it. It gives my fireballs a pseudo-homing property. However, the homing isn't perfect, and it can kind of swing a little bit. And as such, if it hits an enemy in a certain way, it'll knock them in your direction, which will hurt you several times. And it's not fun. Luckily, because I used my herb early enough, there is a safety herb I can pick up pretty soon that will really mitigate the fact that I had to use it so early. Which is good, because this is the scariest part of the run. This is the mode of Burn Bless. It is kind of the point where the fact that I have no armor is really going to show. Because prior to this point, oh no, I'm not going to kill that enemy anymore. So the Scorpion enemies take a lot of hits to kill, and they have high defense, and they deal a lot of damage. Those Armadillo-like enemies, they deal a lot of damage, and they have even higher defense, to the point that I'm level 22. I don't think I can even hurt them right now. The other kicker about those enemies is that they also don't even give you that much experience for killing them. I'm going to go through that room later, and I will have enough levels to actually kill those enemies, and it won't be worth it to do so, because they will give me very little experience for how long it takes to kill them. I might be required to kill them, because it'll be during a part where there'll be an NPC following me. Speaking of that NPC, we enter this little town, this colony of lava. People have made very questionable life choices and have decided to start their village on an island surrounded by lava. And this man here, the bridge keeper, Ruba, has had his son Tarf abducted by Dallas and his henchmen. Basically with the order, hey, if a red-haired swordsman comes through, don't let him cross the bridge or we'll kill your son. And so us, being the kind and very easily tricked adventurers that we are going to go rescue his son. I say easily tricked because, although it is the right thing to do to rescue this individual by the name of Tarf, Tarf is probably the worst NPC in the entire E-series. I've made this claim before, and then people have disputed that Sir Carlon from Ys 8 is worse. I then counter with the fact that Sir Carlon ends up having some redeeming character qualities, slash excuses for being kind of horrible. And he kind of has like a bit of a redemption arc. Tarf, on the other hand, is just kind of horrible throughout the entire game, and I just don't like him. And he has cost me a lot of runs. And I will hopefully not... I will explain and hopefully not experience why that has happened later on. Alright, so this room right here is the scariest room in the entire game, to the point that I'm saving like every single... the point that I am literally saving all of the time. Because I mentioned previously that the experience route in this game is pretty... I'm not gonna kill that guy. That the experience route in this game works out really well, overall. It's actually very convenient that we can kill enemies as we go and not have to worry about it. However, for the for the EXP route to really work out, we need to kill basically every lizard enemy in that room. And you notice that room has a lot of the armadillo enemies that I mentioned before. Oh, also this is the safety room that I previously We have to kill basically every lizard enemy in that room in order for our EXP to work out. Oops. There we go. And, yeah, those armadillo enemies like to swarm you. They will kill you in 3 hits. There are no iframes in this game, and it's basically a recipe for lots of fun. All sorts of fun. It is a serious party of immense proportions. When Adol enters that room, the enemies just start moshing. Just crazy mosh pit going on. It's intense. And it usually results in me dying horribly and losing the run. So that room is very mean. I make it a point to save before that room. Always. Always, always. Save before that room. It makes it so that even if I lose time, I don't lose a run. However, we do, with the angel earrings that the father gave us, which let us hear faint noise, we find Tarf. He is being imprisoned with a dude/demon, or a dude turned demon named Keith. You know, demons have very trendy names. His name's Keith, and he's like, yo, so I'm a demon, and the Black Pearl makes me strong, so I can break the bars. And he does, and then he leaves, and leaves us with Tarf. So Tarf's like, hey, mister, you're the reason I'm trapped. You have to escort me home now. And, we have to escort Tarf home. So, if you have seen anything about East 1, you know that there is a period of time where you have to escort Fina out of the Solomon Shrine, or out of the shrine. That section's usually pretty fine. Like, you're never really in danger of losing a run there unless you're just being careless or something really bad happens. Oh, how I wish that was the case with this. So Fina is such a well-programmed NPC. She will follow you most everywhere. She can be off-screen when you transition rooms, and she'll follow you between screens. It's wonderful. Tarf, on the other hand, hopefully you will not see this happen, but, you know, he's about right there, and he followed me. I have had times where he's literally been right next to me and not followed me through. Oops, I just walked right into that. I'm gonna have to use one of my herbs. That's a little unfortunate. I've had times where he's been right next to me and not followed me through a screen. And the point where they like to spawn him on the screen happens to be next to one of those scorpion enemies, and Tarf will die in 2 hits from literally anything. Also, a feature about Tarf is he really likes rocks, specifically getting stuck on rocks. There is a lot of geometry in the mode of Burn Bless, whereas the Solomon Shrine was very much straight edges, straight corners, all that. The mode of Burn Bless has a lot of geometry in it. Most of that geometry I did not know existed until escorting Tarf repeatedly through there, mostly because he's gotten stuck on literally all of it at some point. He is wonderful in every way. I don't know how to describe my feelings for Tarf. It's something. I'm gonna actually take a safety heal here because I'm really low on health, and so I'm gonna take a safety heal. You can fully heal your health and MP. This is actually going to be really nice because it means I'm going to be able to save the Rhoda fruit that I picked up earlier. I was going to use it later in the run I was going to actually use it before this next boss to get a full MP heal. It makes the next boss a lot faster, a lot safer, and it's very nice. But since I had to take that heal, I don't have to worry about using the Rhoda fruit. So I'm going to save time before the final. Picking up some items that I would normally pick up to prep for the final boss. So it works out. I lose a couple seconds, but I'll save a few seconds. So now that we've rescued Tarf, we get to keep the angel earrings because they won't possibly be useful later. We get to keep the angel earrings, and we can move on through Burn Bless. So now is about the time where I need to check how much money I have. And my money situation's actually not looking great. I need quite a bit more. I'm actually fairly close. I also just hit level 26, which is the level I need to be for the next boss. So I need to be level 26, and I need to have about 7,900 money. So I'm going to kill this dude. Hopefully I can actually knock him in the correct direction. This works. And now 7,900. I'm going to just give myself 8,000, just for safety. You get 2,000 from the boss, and the boss has a minion that he spawns that gives you 100. but, you know, pick up some extra money just for safety. And here we go. Content warning, this boss is hideous. Like, very disturbingly hideous. I'm mostly desensitized to it because of how much I played this game, but I love showing this game to people and showing this boss and then being like, what is that? Because literally that's the only way you can respond to seeing this thing appear. This thing is Galaldi. I also just screwed up strat for him, but it's fine. So this thing, it's the best way to describe it. It's a head with legs and very disturbing hooks sticking out of him. This thing is probably the worst and most terrifying boss, both in terms of the fight itself and just appearance, in the entire game. And I mistimed that again. He spits out this worm from his mouth, and while his mouth is open, that is the only time for you to be able to shoot fireballs into his ugly mug. So you can hit him while he's spawning the worm and while he's retracting it. Of course, it's a lot easier to hit him while he is retracting the worm than when he's spawning it. So the plan, or the strat for the boss, is to try to get the worm as far away from him as possible while he's right before he retracts it. I'm admittedly really bad at that. I'm usually off by like a second. And he, when he's almost dead, he spawns this little, I call it a mini-me, but it's just an, that happened, that's fine. That's fine. I got very careless and I died. Basically, like I mentioned before, I'm not wearing armor. This is really where it shows. However, also it doesn't matter. Like you saw, I just got stun-locked in the corner by that thing. Even if I was wearing, like, the state-of-the-art armor that I could have, like, the best armor in the game that I could have at this point, it really wouldn't matter. I would still, I actually got a really good cycle, and then I just lost count of time. It really wouldn't matter at all, because, the worm just stun-locks you, and you can't really do anything about it. It's very well designed. I love it. It's great. However, that was actually a pretty good cycle. So, a very volatile boss fight. Like I said, this one's also manipulatable. It's just terrifying because some of the things you have to do to get the worm to be really far away are very scary looking, and a lot of them are quite risky. And let's see if I can do this. There we go. There we go. So I should give this in 2 more cycles. I'm going to be a little behind on time, but that's totally fine. My estimate for this game is very, very liberal. Again, 1 hour 20 for this game is pretty easy to get, barring like a bunch of things going wrong. There we go. That was what was supposed to happen last time. I was just a little bit off with my positioning. Yeah, like I said, 1 hour 20 in this game is very achievable. Very, very achievable. I could have had a death to Galaldi, death like at the very end of the basement, and still finish at like a 118. Or like a 117. Like, my 112 was a pretty good run, but even that wasn't anywhere near perfect. And I should be able to kill him on this next cycle. Unfortunate, but fine. There we go. That's Galaldi. 37 Galaldi kill is not bad by any stretch of the imagination. Like, even if I was going for, like, just runs, like, for PB, I mean, if I was going for PB exclusively, I would probably reset to that. But if I was going for, like, halfway decent runs, I would still feel comfortable. Like, this is still, like, a sub 115 pace. Which is really good, like, all things considered. Alright, so we're now in Ramia Village, also known as Lamia Village in the Japanese version of the game. And we will be purchasing the Hyper Cutter, the Tier 4 sword, and no armor. We do not have enough money for armor, because armor is not that important. However, it also means that the following area is going to be even more scary, which which is what I absolutely love about this section, is that enemies can just kind of kill me. But it's fine. That was honestly the scariest part of the run is done. This next part of the run is actually pretty comfy. So we talked to this guy, Gordo, who has a spear. He makes me think of Gortos from Kirby. He's the gate guard, and he regales us with a tale of his friend Sada, whose fiancée Maria got captured because she's a descendant of one of the 6 sages, something, magic ritual, evil things, summon some ancient demon to destroy the world. Sada's like, I'm gonna save my girlfriend! Rah! Also, don't let anyone in. And he's like, well, he was stupid, but the shrine's really dangerous, so you should talk to Sada's father before you go into the shrine. And we're like, okay, that's cool. And so I'm gonna pick up this crewberry. I said I didn't. I was saying I didn't need to, but I'll pick it up for something else. And we talked to Hadat, this very, very fine-looking gentleman with a very nice beard. And he's like, yeah, my son's an idiot, you should go save him. And he gives us a Lila shell, which is kind of a tutorial guidance item. He noticed, as I was running through the earlier areas, there were some statues that I ran by. Those statues were basically kind of hints of like, hey, you should do this. And since there's not as many statues through the shrine, and the shrine is a pretty big area, of course we're going to spend the next 20-30 minutes in the shrine, the devs were like, when they were porting this and enhancing it, they're like, well, we need a way to give people hints because of how big the shrine is. So also Sour Please, this song is amazing. It is Shrine of Solomon, or Palace of Solomon. It's an amazing song. Anywho, the Lola Shell is basically the hint system for this area. And like I mentioned before, we will be doing a lot of grinding as we go. There will be one really big dedicated grinding section later that we have to do. I just totally the wrong way, that's perfectly fine. There will be one dedicated grinding section we'll have to do later in order to make up enough EXP to do decent damage to the boss and make another grind later faster. So we're going to be trying to kill a bunch of enemies as we go that will make the grind a little bit faster for us. Of course, provided I can actually kill any of these enemies, jeez. My usage of magic is of no concern at this moment in time as well. I will be getting a full heal very soon, before I even need to do the grind before the next boss. So I really don't have to worry about my MP usage at all at this point. Of course, would like to actually, make effective use of my MP and hit my... There we go. And actually hit what I'm shooting for, but, it's a... Beggars can't be choosers. We receive a pass. Basically, we have a couple objectives we have to accomplish as we're going through the shrine. First of all, we need to figure out what's going on. We did promise we'd help rescue there's been a bunch of people that have been taken prisoner by the demons. So we need to find where the runaways are. Basically, a group of people have escaped captivity. So we need to find them, hook up with them. So right now we're getting to kind of the base of operations to intrude on a meeting that's going on for some little bit of counterintelligence on the happenings in the shrine. And from there we will be going to find the runaways in their hideout. There we go. So we picked up a pass that will allow us to go into this sector. And in this sector we will be killing more enemies, of course. And we'll be intruding upon that we'll be listening in on that meeting. Of course, making as loud of an entrance as we can before we switch back. You need to have the Whisper Earrings and be a Rue to be able to hear this conversation. And here we're introduced to Zava, who's kind of Dallas's top general. In other games in the series, she's established to kind of be the mother of all of these demons, in a way. And with that information that we have obtained, we can now warp back to Ramia Village because it's faster, because we need to go to the opposite side of the shrine now. So, you have to be a Rue to get through those gates. Basically, it's kind of humorous, actually. So those guards are, told not to let anyone from the village in because, of course. However, they're not the sharpest tools in the shed. We turn into a Rue and we're like, hey, so I killed Adol. You want to know how you can know that I killed Adol? well, here's his equipment. And they're like, oh, okay, that sounds good. And so we get into the shrine, and if you go back and talk to them, they're like, hey, weren't you just in there? Oh, well, whatever, it's no big deal. So they're not the smartest enemies in the game. However, they're also the strongest enemies in the game. Literally, they are the most powerful regular enemy. And they're very scary. There's actually an achievement that you can get in the Steam version of this game for killing a certain number of them because of how ridiculous they are. So here's the one use of the light magic. This cup here would not appear unless we had light magic equipped. So yeah, that's light magic. That's the one use it gets, and that's why you have to pick it up. Hooray! Again, we'll be killing enemies as I'm running through here. It's a little scary, we're good. There's no real level goal at this point. I'm just trying to kill as many enemies as I can. Once I get done with this segment, I do need to hit level 38 off of the enemies that I'm going to be using to grind. So of course, every level I get now is just going to expedite that process just a little bit. Here we're introduced to Dallas, who's like, yo, leave, and we're like, no, and he's like, fine, I'll turn you into a Roo and make you painfully cute. And we're like, no, anything but being cute. And now we're a Roo, which is a problem, because if you go and try to talk to the people in the hideout now, they're like, ah, it's a demon, which is a problem. So we need to figure out a way to unroo ourselves. First, however, I'm going to be getting the warp point for the runaway hideout, so that I can just warp back here later. I'm going to be killing, of course, these little blob enemies. These enemies are really easy to kill, but also the way the fireball works and Adol Roo's movement, like the way he hits enemies, is actually a little bit different than normal Roo. It's a little bit bouncier. And so sometimes you can just kind of hit enemies in weird directions and die. And if you noticed, I haven't saved since before Vivaldi. It's fun. It's very fun. However, we talked to this old dude who's a nerd. He's a total nerd. He likes cups and history and stuff, just like nerds do. And he's like, hey, so you have a magical cup, right? Well, guess what? I have a well in my basement with magical water. And so we drink his magical water, and it heals us. So we're a human again. We're no longer cute. Well, we'll see if it works, but spoilers, we are not going to be Adol Roo for the whole game. Yay, I'm a human again. Yay, I'm a llama again. Anywho, he's like, magnificent. And so now that we've given him the cup, he's going to continue to... I have to return magical cup for you. He's going to oodle at that while we go and we talk to the runaways. They're like, hey, I was from Lance Village, and I got captured. Also, Lily is here. You should probably talk to her. And by talk to her, we mean that Lily is going to jump scare us right now. It's like, hello! Oh, hi. And she's going to give us a shrine key, which will let us open some locked doors. And then Dallas is going to crash the party. It's going to be like, sup, dudes? It's Dallas. It's your boy Dallas here. And he turns everyone to stone. Which is very rude. I would not recommend turning people to stone. Doesn't make you very many friends. So, you know, everyone's turned to stone now. That's a problem. Just a little bit. So we're gonna go try to solve this problem. And we will solve that problem by grinding. Like, not really, but that's what we're gonna do right now. So we're gonna go, we have to go pick up a silver pendant from a subterranean canal area that's over here, back by where we eavesdropped on the conversation. And while we're in the subterranean canal, there happens to be some enemies in the canal that give really good experience. They give the most experience for really any enemy in this part of the game per volume of enemies. And so we're going to be using those enemies to grind to level 38. The nice thing is that the experience system in this game works as such that if you're I'm going to save now. If you are a low enough level, if you're lower than the enemy's level, they will give you double experience. And so because of that, we will get about 250 experience-ish from every enemy kill in this area. Oops. However, my level is low enough and my attack stat is low enough that killing them can be kind of slow at times if I'm not careful. There we go. So there is a little bit of RNG with this grind that determines how fast it's going to go. You notice that the enemy spawn positions are set, and once enemies are spawned, until they aggro onto Adol, they will move in a random direction, which includes their starting direction. So ideally what will happen is that both enemies, when I spawn in, both enemies will be walking towards me. Whoops. Both enemies will be walking towards me. You can see that doesn't happen, and because I go for the enemy on the right first, sometimes the enemy on the left will end up on the other side of the room, which is time loss of about 3 seconds every time it happens, 3-4 seconds every time it happens, which is unfortunate. Also, these enemies have a really terrifying attack. You saw earlier that enemies could shoot like fireballs at me. These enemies like breathe fire, and by breathe fire I mean they cover half of the screen with flame, and that attack is terrifying, and it can actually instantly kill me at lower levels. Again, I'm not wearing armor. Even if I was, it like shreds through your defense like crazy anyway. However, now we're leveling up very quickly. So you can see I'm at level 35 now. I'm going to grind to level 38. That was a little sketchy. Luckily, if you hit enemies, it interrupts their animation to attack, so I just had to kind of bop the enemy a little bit to get it to not attack me. So, again, get to level 38, and from there we're going to grab the silver pendant and go and fight the next boss. It's been a little bit since we fought a boss, so we're going to be fighting a very, very interesting boss, and a very interestingly programmed boss. I will get into the details of that later. Now would be a very amazing time to read donations. There's other points where I could be where donations are very acceptable. I don't have to be talking throughout the whole run. I can, but of course it's a charity marathon. We want to get those donations in. They're very important. So this would be an amazing time for donations to be read while we're grinding. There's a grind later that would be equally amazing of an opportunity, along with, you know, stuff like the Tarf escort or any sort of backtrack that I had to do in Nulsha, anything like that. Really, there's as much time for donations as needed for it. I overgrinded, that's perfectly fine. I am now level 38, so I can go and pick up the pendant that I need. Just over here, I'm going to do quick turn magic. Right here, oops. I need to pick up the chest. That'd be really bad. That'd be very, very bad. Pick this up, go back to Ramia Village. And now we'll be going and fighting the boss, which the boss room is actually like right. I've been running by the boss room a lot. You just can't get in there until you have the pendant, and then it's really not worth fighting until you're about level 38 anyway. So we'll be going right in here. You need the key to get in here. And the key to get open here. This is just a boss door. I'm going to be saving just in case. I shouldn't die, but you know, weirder things have happened. So this is Drugar, yeah. He was programmed weird. So bosses in this game are supposed to be programmed as such that they take more damage from charge shots. In the original version of this game, for the for the PC / the TurboGrafx version, Adol didn't have a charge shot. His shots were just, they were what they were, and they powered up as you leveled up. When they made the game, they wanted to make things a little bit more interesting, and so they gave you a charge shot to deal more damage. When they did this, they also, you know, wanted an incentive for you to be using the charge shot, and so they made it so the bosses would take very little damage from regular shots. When they were programming that, they forgot about Drugar in that process. And so he actually just takes normal damage from the same amount of damage from charge shots and normal shots. So yeah, you can just literally just kill him with pot shots, and it's very nice. Makes the fight very quick. It's actually a really fun fight movement-wise. That was a little bit of that wasn't the best fight I've had against him, but it's actually a really fun fight because you can just spam, and you have a timing, especially with the way the Hawk Idol targets. You kind of have to shoot at a weird angle. Here, Hadot interrupts us and be like, hey, this annoying kid's at the house. And so we know that Tarf has made his way to the village to inconvenience us further. However, we will not be talking to him yet. Also, you can overhear a conversation here if you really feel like it, but I'm not going to. So, after 52 minutes of video game, I will be picking up a piece of armor, the Battle Shield. However, I will not be equipping it right now. I will have it in my inventory for a little bit, and then once I pick up the battle armor and the battle sword, I will be equipping it. It's just a lot more convenient to wait, essentially, is my reasoning. Less menu time, you can consolidate your menus. It's very handy. So here we're making our way through the subterranean canal, because we need to talk to Keith. Keith has made his way here, and he is in the corner. He's in the northeast corner, and so we need to head to the southwest to get to him, because people are weird when they design places like this. So we talked to Keith, and he's like, hey, I'm sorry I kind of went crazy earlier. Here, take this key. And this key happens to be the floodgate key. You see that there is water in the canals. In order to progress, we need to drain the canal. So we're going to do exactly that. We're going to go back through this area, through this first area here, and we're going to drain the canal. And conveniently enough, doing so will actually give us a level, which is very nice because we're about to need to grind again. Before we can fight the next boss, I need to be level 35. And some change. And fortunately, pulling this will give us an automatic level up, which will get us a level 40. And now it is time to mosey on... Oops, I'm supposed to go this way. It'll be time to mosey our way on over to the place where we will be grinding next. My brain is exploding, it's fine. Okay, there we go. This is the battle armor. It's very important. And it's right in the way. Even in like world record attempts, you would go for you would skip the battle shield to go for the battle armor. But of course, because it's a marathon run, and because I have not adopted those strats yet, I will be picking up both. So we're able to get here. This is the room we were literally just in. Again, subterranean canal all connects to each other and connects parts of the shrine. It's very nice. Indeed, very, very nice. So now we will be picking up the battle sword. Oops, I'm going the wrong way. This area is very confusing. It's easily the most confusing area in the game. It's not unusual for me to just get randomly very confused and just miss something. So we got the battle sword now. And now it's time for me to be equipping armor. So I have 127 defense now, and now I have 185. Huge, huge increase. So we will not die in 3 hits from everything. We'll still die very quickly to things. The damage values in this game are still way up the wall, but we also are going to pick up this Falcon Idol. It will further enhance our charge shot, so now our charge shots will now break up into pieces and hit multiple enemies, which is very, very handy. Also, I accidentally shot Keith. Sorry, Keith. Alright, so this is going to be the area where I'm going to be doing the next grind, and it is the scariest grind in the game. These first, again, grinding to level 45 and some change. These first enemies that I'm going to be killing are very rude. They hit very, very hard, and they hit very hard. They take a lot of hits to kill. These mage enemies are completely immune to my fireballs. These knight enemies, however, are not, and so I'm still going to be spamming charge shots, though, because hopefully they will auto-target one of the knights and kind of work down their health a little bit while I focus on killing the knights. And yeah, these knights' fireballs are bad news, so I want to avoid them if I can. However, I'm now at the point that I will actually be dealing decent damage to the enemies. I do, however, need to enter this area really fast. I need to set another warp point for the Goddess's Palace. We'll be warping back there a bunch. And I don't want to warp back through and go through the entire shrine again, because that's not a very responsible use of my time. So that's a little spooky. I can't believe I just avoided all of that. I am a master at video games, truly. Gonna aggro that guy really fast while I kill this dude. Almost till my level. I just need like 2 more passes of the entire area. I'll have to hit my level. There we go, there's 44. And I'll be hitting 45 very shortly. Again, even though these enemies are immune to charge shots, I can still potentially hit the knight enemies, which makes it worth it. Because the knight enemies are infinitely scarier than the wizards are. Like, I mean, the wizards have fireballs, which makes them spooky, but the knights deal more damage. And they're definitely more of an immediate threat than the wizards are. Oops, I say as I almost get shot in the face with a fireball. Alright, that puts me at level 45, and right in the right place I need to be. So now it is time to fight Zava. And she's like, oh, you're at all well, now I'm going to kill you, ah ha ha ha. And they talk about dancing. For some reason. If I actually read the text, I'd probably know why, but when you're trying to go quickly and you don't read all the text, you just see, dance for me! And it's like, oh, okay. I mean, I'll shoot fireballs at you, does that count? So, the Falcon Idol's really great because it lets you hit a lot of targets. That is provided the targeting on the Falcon Idol actually works. Right now, Zava's invincible. You deal damage to her at the moment by killing these little spawn bat enemies that she creates. However, she is still a valid target for the fireball, and so it'll target her more often than not, and miss the bats, which is not fun. Also, sometimes the targeting has a very wide arc that it moves at. It can't really do sharp turns, and so if I hit it against a wall, in trying to retarget enemies, most of the time the shots will all run into the wall. It's kind of inconvenient, but it's a lot better than, trying to use Hawk Idol shots on these things. Or even worse, not using idle shots at all. However, that puts Zava right down. I can actually hit her directly now. I want to be trying to hit her with the giant charge shot and then hope that the smaller shots will hit her, and I did. And that is a Zava fight. That fight can get a little scary. It's not too bad most of the time, though. And here we finally meet Maria, who is about to be sacrificed. And she's like, no, you should leave. Don't worry about me, I'm gonna be sacrificed. You should focus on killing the bad guy. And we're like, no, we're gonna save you. We're gonna get to the top of the tower before the fourth bell rings. Something like that. And so we're running, and it's very intense, very spooky, because we have to make it in time, or she's gonna die. And that's bad. We don't let people die in these video games, not in my happy JRPG. There'll be no death. None at all. And so we're running. It's very intense. Very, very stressful music playing. The bell rings a second time. There's something there that I can't grab yet. I'll have to come back for it later. But not now, because I'm running intensely. And we're outside. We have to go to the other building now, where the bell rings a third time. Oh no. Apparently it is 5 rings. I counted wrong. We're fine. We're gonna make it, though. It's not like these bells are scripted or anything. Oh no, the bell tolled the 4th time. And it's Dallas. Oh no, what are we going to do? How are we going to stop the bell? And now he's rambling like a James Bond villain. Very much like a James Bond villain. And the bell rings. Oh no, we failed. The world is doomed. See, everything turned purple. That's how you know the world is doomed. Yeah, that's actually scripted. There's nothing you can do. Nothing at all. However, I do need to remember to go back and grab that treasure chest that I pointed out earlier. It's a very important item that if I don't get, it loses a lot of time. I have yet to forget to do it in a run, but most other people have. And that's why I haven't forgotten, because the runs where I would forget it, someone else forgets it. I'm like, oh yeah, I can't forget that. So we go over here and we pick up the Dreaming Idol. It's 1/2 of the items we need to unstone everyone. And now we go back to the Goddess's Palace. Also, we have the song Battleground playing in the shrine now. It's a great song, I love it. And we meet these 2 strange, like, familiar-looking women. They look very familiar. We're not sure why. But they're like, yo, we're the goddesses of East. You need to save our people, so bring the Falcon Idol. Or not the Falcon Idol. Bring the Black Pearl with the Dreaming Idol, and it'll save everyone. We're like, cool. You know who has the Black Pearl, right? Tarf does. I'm sure he has made very sure that he has taken excellent care of that black... Oops, I was running into the milk thing. That he has taken excellent care of the Black Pearl. He has it with him. He's going to give it to us. It's going to be excellent. Except he has a hole in his pocket. And he dropped it. Yep. The item that is essential for the salvation of all of these people that have been turned into stone. He freaking dropped it. Isn't Tarf a great character? Isn't he just wonderful? Anyway, he does know where it went. Well, he doesn't know where it went. He's like, oh, I have no where it is. Might be somewhere around here. Luckily, the guards happened to tell us, oh, by the way, the meeting is over, and they brought in some really important item. And we're like, well, there's a really important item that happened to have just gone missing, so I wonder if it's that. So the guards are more helpful than Tarf is, and they kill us less. So there's that. So now we get to go and completely murder these enemies that used to be kind of threatening to us. And we reobtain the Black Pearl, never to give it back to Tarf ever again. Because he has proven he is incapable of taking care of it. And we go back to the goddesses, and they do the very special, very painstaking task of putting the pearl into the slot in the top of the Dreaming Idol that's conveniently there. Very painstaking. They had to do it. We couldn't do it. It's too complicated. And now they're like, yeah, go back to the top of the Campanile and save everyone. So we get to walk back to the top of the Campanile. I have no idea if I'm saying that word right, by the way. I'm just making up a pronunciation. I'm getting hit. That's bad. It's fine. We're fine. Especially because I'm overkilling enemies right now. Ideally, I'm at the level I need, or I'm at 46. I need to be 47 for fighting Dallas, but I'm about to get a level from saving everyone. And then I'll probably be sort of close to getting 48, maybe. Ideally, you fight Dallas at 47 because it's faster, because killing enemies is slow. But if you happen to be 48, it makes the fight safer, because you take less damage and you deal some tiny bit more damage to you. Especially since I just took a bunch of really silly hits that I don't know really why I took them. But it's fine, because I still have 3 herbs, because I didn't use any on Zava. Or Druger, or in the grind. You pick up the 3 herbs specifically for bad things that can happen in the shrine, or bad things that can happen in the second half of Burn Bless, and since I haven't used any yet, that means I have a little bit more freedom with my healing items. Because you grab them specifically for Dallas and Zava, and my Zava fight went really well, so... Yeah, there's not a whole lot to talk about here. This is another really good donation time. I'm just rambling to fill space at the moment, but this is a really good donation time, because literally I have to run back to the top of this tower and be like, save my people! Except they're not my people. And then we do that, and we're like, yay, we saved everyone. Let's go get some powerful items. So we have to do a couple of things. We need to pick up the gold pass, or the gold key. I'm just gonna go ahead and get, to see if I can get my, yeah, no, I'm not gonna get it. That's fine. We have a couple of items we need to get before we can fight Dallas. We need the gold pendant, which the runaways have. We can get it from them. However, we also need to pick up Sada's sword. If you would have ran through here before, you would have seen that Sada had also been turned to stone somewhere in the canal. And he happens to be over here. Which side? Yeah, Sada's over here. My brain is doing things to me, and I don't appreciate it. I'm actually going to check this way. This is probably not the right way. I'm going to check something really fast. Yeah, no, that's what I figured. somewhat intentional time loss there, because there was something I was researching. My navigation through this area is very sketchy, very sketchy, and questionable. I was mixing questionable and sketchy. Got sweaty. It's a new word, patented, freedom. 2020. But, going through this area, we have to go get Sada's sword, because it's very special. He happens to have a Claria sword, and like we mentioned in the first game, Claria, or Silver, is a very magical material that has the ability to destroy demons. And Dallas is a very powerful sorcerer, so he will be having no fireball shenanigans from us. To the point that he actually disables our magic once we get into the fight with him. We have to talk to all these guys also. He will have no fireball shenanigans. None at all. And so, as such, we need a different way of hitting him. I'm also going to equip it while I'm thinking about it, because I've definitely gone into the fight forgetting to equip the item before. And that always makes me feel very silly. So we equip the Claria sword so that we can actually hurt Dallas. And now we talk to everyone, they're like, yo, Lilia vanished, and then Keith is like, hi, and they're like, ah, it's a demon! Oh, wait, it's Keith. And Keith is a very magical individual. You see, wings are only supposed to carry one person at a time. In fact, if you show Tarf a wing later on, he's like, oh, well, we can't both use this, so you have to show me the way, or whatever. And 5 people are about to use a wing to get back to the village. Because magic. And also, we just got the gold pendant, which is the last item we need to pick up before we can go fight Dallas. The silver pendant warped us to where that part of the canal where we could go to get Zava. Words are hard, clearly. And the gold pendant takes us to where Dallas is. So we use the gold pendant, we have it equipped, and we touch the statue, and boom, we're in a new area. Boom, like that. And we're back in the area of the subterranean canal with these fire-breathing lizards. I have actually had them target me and breathed fire on me and dealt a lot of damage to me in the past. It's frustrating when it happens. You want to be as close to full health as possible when you go into this fight. I am nowhere near full health at the moment, but that's fine. I will just equip my herbs now and hope for the best. Because here's Dallas. Dallas! He's a fun fight. He's actually a really fun fight. I love this fight. I used to hate this fight with every fiber of my being, and I still kind of hate it, actually. I love this fight because it's a really fun fight, and the music is amazing. Overdrive is one of my favorite songs in all of video games. I'm gonna use one of my favorites now. Overdrive is an amazing song. Love it to pieces. And this is definitely one of the most technical fights in the game. It is also the most random fight in the game. Dallas's position that he warps in from is totally random. And the white fireballs that he shoots out, those white particles, the configuration they shoot at you is random. And then the meteors, once you hit Dallas, the meteors will fly at you very erratically. And like I mentioned, invincibility frames don't exist in this game, and the fireballs do about 17 or 18 damage per hit to you at level 47. They do a little bit less at level 48, they do about 12. And they can do about 100 damage to you very quickly if the game decides to be rude. So that happens. Also, Dallas, you can get between 2 and 3 hits. You can get between like 1 and 3 hits on him per cycle. 3 hits you have to be very precise. The average is generally 2. 1 hit happens if you happen to get abused by the meteors. Overall, though, the fight's not too bad. It's, again, super fun. The music makes it actually really hype. However, it can murder you very quickly. Like there, I just took a lot of damage. I'm going to use my last herb because it doesn't really matter. After this point, I'm going to have a different means of healing / defending myself against the final boss, so I don't really care about my item usage. You literally grab your herbs for that fight, and that's the Dallas fight. That was a pretty good fight. I've had better, had worse, for sure. And we get the shield magic. It makes us invincible, but it drains our MP at a kind of fast rate, and that is how we'll be protecting ourselves against the final boss. So here we take a very slow elevator down, Something that was mentioned earlier in the story is that the reason that the Kingdom of East... Shut up, Tarf. Also, Tarf is here because apparently he's a descendant of one of the sages. So he gets to bug us one last time. So the reason that the Kingdom of East is floating is because the seal that was locking away Darm, who is the kind of evil entity of the game, the seal that was locking him away was kind of based on the fact that the item that provides magic to the kingdom, the Black Pearl, is also the thing that produces demons. And so the plan was basically have the Kingdom of East floating really, really high up, which expends more magic so that the seal on Darm would be kind of upheld because it couldn't expend the resources to summon Darm because it was using so much, keeping the kingdom aloft, more or less. However, in attempting to sacrifice the descendants of the sages, you also see that Maria is alive. She did not get sacrificed. They had to... The ritual was to break the seal. Also, this is the room that you fought the Boolean in. Fun fact. You bring the Kingdom of East down back to Earth so that Darm can be released. And he's like, I am free. The goddesses are trapped. Ha 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 ha. I am evil. Mwahaha. I'm generic. Ha ha ha. And then Gobin and Lud Gemma show up, and they're like, not so fast! And Gobin throws a harmonica at her face. In a parallel universe, that harmonica flies straight into Adol and ends his adventure very differently. But we play Fina's theme that we have memorized after hearing it once. And we free the goddesses! Yay! And it turns out that the goddesses are actually Fina and Rhea from the first game. Yay! They're like, oh yeah, we're the goddesses, and we sealed away Darm, and now he's back. You need to destroy the Black Pearl to stop him, which will also destroy all of the magic in the world. But it's fine. Also, they're giving us magical abilities to kill Darm. Because that's important. Magic. Alright, and I'm gonna run the fight as a Rue, because it's funny. Oh no! Ah! Also because it's faster than me. I'm gonna save just in case. I shouldn't die to this fight, but I've died to the fight in a marathon run before, and it was really uncomfortable. I had a backup save, luckily, but just, you know, saving is important. So now we equip our shield magic, and now we basically have 2 health bars for this fight. That's good. Okay. We have 2 health bars for this fight. We have our magic bar and our actual health bar. I picked up a Rhoda Fruit earlier, and because earlier I was able to, or I healed at the Rhoda nest, or at the Rue Nest, it means that I didn't have to use my Rhoda Fruit before Galaldi, which is what I would have done, to give me more MP for the fight. Also, time is going to be on the last hit on Darm, which we're entering in second phase, so that'll be within the next 30 seconds or so. Yeah, so because of that, if my magic gets low, I can just use my Rhoda Fruit and get a full MP heal instead of, like... I would have picked up the Crew Berries instead, which each give you, like, a 15 or 20 MP boost, which is very nice. Instead. So the way this fight works, you notice that there's periods of time where he kind of gets a ring around him and can't move. That's because of the Goddess Ring item I picked up that Lilia gave me. Essentially, it freezes him in place for a set amount of time, and that's when you can deal a lot of damage to him. However, his hitbox in this phase is very weird. I'm gonna use the Rhoda Fruit now. His hitbox in this phase is very weird. And he likes to just kind of... And that's time. 1645, alright. Yeah, he likes to just kind of run around the area and be rude. So, yeah. Also, because we destroyed the Black Pearl, all of the magic in the world is draining away. That's what you're seeing right now. Yeah, his hitbox is really weird because it's an oval. And so you just kind of slide off his hitbox when you're trying to hit him in his second phase. And he also likes to lock himself in position. Like, the AI knows when it's about to get frozen, so it likes to run to a point where you can't hit him. And because the arena is circular with, like, a weird circle in the middle, it just makes hitting him really difficult in the second phase. So the trick is to kind of manipulate him so that when he freezes, he's in a kind of a corner where you can just hit him a lot. But yeah, that's East 2. Amazing game. Absolutely love it. Super fun run. I could talk about it for hours as I just demonstrated, but super fun run. Keith is now a normal person. He's a real boy! Also, Ludogema has a shield because we were supposed to get the best shield in the game from him before we fight Darm. It's fine. And we're like, yay, we saved the world, yay! And the goddesses are like, oh yeah, but because there's no magic, we kind of don't have the energy to sustain ourselves, so we're gonna go to sleep again. Which is fun. It means that instead of waifuing Fina, it means Adol can not waifu Lilia, because he leaves, as he does every game. Yeah, that was East 2. A super fun game. Love running it. I hope y'all who are watching enjoyed it, and thank you for your consideration. I would absolutely love to run it for Limit Break. Love Limit Break a lot. It's a great marathon, supports a very great charity for a cause that's very, very important to me and for a lot of my family and close friends. So, I will leave the credits to roll, just for funsies. But that's the end of the run. 1:16:45 is, again, like 3 minutes 15 seconds underestimate, and that's with a death to Golaldi that was like at the very end of the fight, along with some really silly movement in some of the other sections. So yeah, very, very, very pretty easy time to hit, very marathon safe with a 120. Things have to go like astronomically bad for me to lose that time, which it happens, but overall it's quite safe. And of course, between now and then, I would grind it down to make sure that doesn't happen. But yeah, we get a happy ending. Fina's like, oh yeah, I love you, but I have to go to sleep now. And you're like, well, this stinks. Also, volume warning. I turned the volume down in-game because the game is very loud. However, the game just kind of forgot to adjust volume for cutscenes, and so this cutscene is going to play at maximum volume, and I can't do anything about that, so I apologize. Yeah, I hope you all enjoy the ending. Very happy ending. Great song. Very anime. Thank you all so much for your time. Have a great day. And yeah. If I can mute the mic. 呼んでるか